Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about all these magical exercises and movements and angles that everyone always tries to teach. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my craft a little bit, and let's talk about this. And here's the thing. I know some people go, man, you use that line a lot. But here's the thing. How many people out there actually stop and wonder if all these little mystical tricks that people teach, if they only do that so that they will have something to sell you? In other words, if they don't come up with all these little new tiny exercise variations, how's anyone going to write new articles about training? How are all these different bodybuilding type channels going to put out new fitness information if they can't show you new ways to perform a dumbbell chest press? Or new ways to do a cable fly, of how to turn the pinky a certain way to try to get a little more chest activation. How are they going to sell this stuff if they don't teach you all these new things? Because the reality is, none of this stuff actually matters. All these little magic secrets don't work. They don't do anything. Muscles don't care about any of that. Yeah, when we're talking about performance, there is things like intensity, joint angle, specificity, all this stuff. Yeah, that matters as far as strength curves. But why does anyone care about strength curves on anything but a big barbell movement? In other words, those things don't matter on smaller exercises. And at the end of the day, do you want to know what muscles care about? Muscle fiber recruitment. In other words, workload. How much work did a muscle do? Did you work it through an effective range of motion? Did you create enough fatigue through either a combination of tension, workload, metabolic fatigue to stimulate some adaptation? In other words, did you stimulate a muscle through enough muscle fibers to cause it to adapt and improve from where it was before? Did you apply a new stress to it chronically? That's all that they care about. That's all that muscles care about. And you know what? You don't even get to pick which muscle fibers get stimulated. I mean, that's kind of the most interesting thing. People come up, well, if you do this or that, it might help with slower twitch fibers, faster twitch fibers. You guys do know that's nonsense, right? That's not actually real. That's rate coding. It's rate coding. In other words, you still hit the same muscle fibers on a 10 rep max that you do on a 3 rep max if you take them pretty much to their limit. You're still reaching the upper threshold fibers. And people say, well, some of those stamina fibers might get a little more fatigued. No, not really. Because they don't get fatigued until the weight gets hard and they have to cut out. In other words, the growth stimulus is pretty similar. It's all just about work done. How much work did you subject a muscle to? The only time differences matter as far as muscle fibers go, going to be certain joint angles in a muscle might not hit certain areas of fibers because it didn't get worked through that area. But if you take any muscle through a reasonable effective range of motion and you take it to enough fatigue to recruit the available muscle fibers, you've stimulated it. And all the little twists and angles and turns don't really matter. They don't matter for stimulating muscle growth. Now, strength is affected to some extent by the amount of tension created or the neuromuscular components if it's a multi-joint exercise. See, and people don't realize that. The neuromuscular efficiency that you're thinking of doesn't matter that much. Motor unit learning doesn't matter that much on single joint exercises. It's big movements because you have to train the different muscles to work together. In other words, when you barbell squat, your quads aren't the only muscle involved. And no, it's not just the quads and glutes. Because if you think about it, there's even an amount of lat involved. There's spinal erector involved. There is a movement pattern involved with all of that due to the hip hinge. Your quads are involved, your glutes are involved, your hamstrings are involved. There is a learning curve to making all of these things move at once. But you have that learning curve by performing the movement correctly. Right? You ingrain the motor pattern just like throwing a baseball. Shooting a bow and arrow. There's a movement pattern involved because there's multiple muscles involved. In some cases, a dozen different muscles involved in any of those things. if they have to be coordinated in a certain sequence or pattern or to work together simultaneously. There's that, but outside of that, it's just muscle fiber recruitment. But the thing is, if people didn't have all these magical secrets, most of them don't have anything else to talk about, because at the end of the day, the big basic barbell movements are still going to stimulate all the same muscle fibers. And if you create enough fatigue, aren't you still going to work all those fibers they're talking about trying to get by adding that little extra twist? Really? Because I can tell you right now, if you go through a full range of motion on a bench press or a weighted dip, if you go through at least a reason, it doesn't need to be 100% full range of motion. If you just go through a reasonably effective range of motion and you take that muscle to fatigue, or you lift a heavy enough weight explosively enough, if you don't take something close to muscle failure, you're going to stimulate pretty much all the available muscle fibers. Everything from the slow twitch all the way up to the fastest twitch, you're going to stimulate them. And if you stimulate them hard enough, what happens? They adapt, they grow. People put way too much emphasis on, well, this little exercise might help work this one little head or create more tension. That doesn't really matter that much. But people will say, well, but it might change the way you look. I mean, that's how a lot of these guys are so detailed. No, these guys are detailed because they diet down lean. They diet down lean. And if you don't believe me, look how many guys out there, go look at different athletes who compete in sports where they don't necessarily have to get that big. They just carry a reasonable amount of muscle. Less muscle than a lot of you might have from working out already, but they are under 10% body fat. Go look at a lot of sprinters. There's some 160-pound sprinters out there who are 9% body fat. Don't they have all that detail? Don't they have all that detail? Don't they have all those different heads of the muscles you can see? It's just a matter of being lean enough and having good enough muscle tone from any form of training and just a degree of musculature. Now, if a person's dieted down and doesn't exercise much and they lose a bunch of muscle, they might not have that look. But if you have even a modest amount of muscle mass and you get really, really low body fat, you're still going to have that look that people are talking about. As far as being able to see the individual heads of the muscles and the different muscle fibers when they flex. That's just a product of body fat and muscle tone. That's all it is. And sometimes when you see that crazy pop, that's from drugs. That comes from drugs, not because they've found a way to specifically isolate the upper inner pec to give that line. No, that guy has just built a reasonable amount of pec muscle and he's really lean. Okay, that's what causes that. It's just a really low body fat. Really low body fat. It's not because that person found a special way to do that. In fact, you go look, there's plenty of people who have that line who compete in other sports that they aren't really bodybuilding, who they just do a lot of dips. Hell, there are gymnasts who have that line who do nothing but ring dips to get it. Gymnastics. Because there's a reasonable amount of resistance there. There's enough resistance there if you do tons of that stuff to build pectoral muscles, so you get all that. But the thing is, it's all just the basics. The basics will give you all of that stuff. But here's the thing. If people tell you that, then they've got to teach you the basics. Then they got to teach you how to perform basic exercises. And then what are they going to talk about? They're going to have to do what I do, and they're going to have to go off and be critics. They're going to have to be critics, or, man, even worse, they're going to actually have to learn how to teach all the basic exercises. You know how tough that's going to be? If all these different experts out there who write articles and make YouTube videos and give people advice, you know, they're used to teaching them, here's how you use a machine curl. Here's how you use an incline fly. Man, what happens if they have to actually learn how to perform the big lifts? And then people see that they suck at them, that they don't know how to perform them correctly, that they were weak at them. Then they're going to question, what does this person really know? How did they get that physique not doing this? Are they doing a bunch of drugs? Are they just genetically gifted? You know, their gig is kind of up if that happens. But at the end of the day, guys, there are no magical exercises. There's just work done. When you're talking about making muscles grow and get bigger, it is literally just about fatiguing the muscles by doing enough work with any exercise. All these little special twists and turns, they might matter for injury prevention. They might matter for sports-specific performance. they don't matter for gaining muscle, and half the time they're counterproductive. They'll put less muscle on you than had you just done something more basic. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.